Hey everybody, welcome to episode 44 of the Tesla Life for March 14th, 2018. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host for this evening, and along with us for the ride tonight, my Tesla Life wingman. You know him better as Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello everybody, and doesn't Russell look bright and cheery today?
He is.
I am. There's no darkness here.
He's got a colorful personality today.
What? And the answer to that is, what is daylight savings time, Alex?
Sun's just shining in the window. There you go.
It is big. It was pouring down rain. Well, speaking of bright, my friend Mr. Tony Schaefer is along for the ride as well.
I am along for the ride, and hopefully it's not going to be a bumpy ride, but I know that it'll be in a Tesla.
There you go. I mean, right? Because, yeah, of course it is. Well, let's get right down to it. Mark has a story. Well, Mark has a lot of stories this week, but that's okay.
We're going to share them around.
We're going to share them. We'll figure it out. We're going to reassign these stories on the fly.
That ought to be interesting.
Just to prove that it's not improv is not just for whose line is it anyway. So our first story, Mark's going to handle, and we have some video too.
Yeah, we're going to throw up some video here.
And by throw up, he means display, not vomit.
No,
for those
that could happen later. You never know.
You never know. I'm still figuring out this technology thing.
Oh, do you want me to?
I got it. Okay. So here is.
There you go. So the Now You Know crew took out a rear-wheel drive Model 3 onto some snowy roads with some snow tires, just to show how the car would perform. And we've got the link in the notes, but it was interesting to see that the car performed very well. It didn't with the brakes and the acceleration. The car did not break free as normal rear-wheel drive cars used to do in the day. The system that's on the Tesla Model 3 seemed to perform very well, and with those snow tires allowed it to get grip and travel quite easily over the snow and not be sliding around. I also did get some firsthand knowledge of this this past January when our friend Yo-Yo came through with his Model 3 in the snow here in Ontario and experienced the same thing. So I'm happy to see that they, in their car, found the exact same situation, and that it was performing quite well. So those that are in the Northeast or in snowy climates, it's an option not to go with all-wheel drive if you want to save some money on that. Certainly a number of people I've spoken to have said that all-wheel drive is the way to go in any situation. But watching this video and, of course, experiencing it myself, I would say that two-wheel drive along with the actual snow tires rear-wheel drive with the snow tires is a good way to go as well.
Certainly acceptable, right? We don't see a lot of fishtailing. We don't see a lot of crazy driving.
And we should call out that these were the Michelin Blizzards or whatever.
Blizzaks.
There we go. Yeah.
Blizzak.
Yeah.
Why do I know that? I have no idea.
But this goes back to, Paul Guzik has said several times that it's not necessarily about getting all-wheel drive, like you said, Mark. It's about getting good tires.
Right. And having those good tires makes all the difference in the world. Not running all season tires, but actual winter or snow tires specifically will make all the difference in the world to the drive and the stability on the road.
Nice. Yeah. Well, speaking of stability, Tesla announced this week that they are getting closer to AP2, which is Autopilot 2. The updated version of the Autopilot software that will work with the newest Autopilot hardware being deployed. And it addresses a couple of things specifically, but I want to quote this paragraph here. This is from a Tesla description of the AP2 update. Quote, Once on the freeway, your Tesla will determine which lane you need to be in and when. In addition to ensuring you reach your intended exit, Autopilot will watch for opportunities to move to a faster lane when you're caught behind slower traffic. When you reach your exit, your Tesla will depart the freeway, slow down, and transition control back to you. This is the on-ramp to off-ramp Autopilot. That's the way that Tesla has described this update of the Autopilot. So it is not from your driveway to your destination. It is an on-ramp to off-ramp thing, primarily on the freeway. And one of the big things that they were addressing in this was the so-called curve of death.
Nothing like making things dramatic.
Yeah,
I used to have sounded like I could put an echo. Curve of death.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tony's showing a little demonstration here. Let me
Yeah.
present that. There we go. So there it is on the road, and it's not dealing with the curve of death at all. But
Yeah,
what the curve of death is some of the off ramps have a very tight curve. There we go. There it is.
Mhm.
And apparently it wasn't unusual for the Autopilot on Tesla to pick, let's just say, an inopportune line to follow. Maybe not a line that the car could physically follow.
You mean into the tree line?
Yeah.
That's a line. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an issue that Tesla has somehow surmounted and will apparently be deploying this very soon, which,
So that's good. That's going to add to their abilities, to exit highway onto, say, another highway or onto a regular road.
Mhm.
Whereas before, the human control would be required to get off that highway effectively. So it's an addition to the AP2 current package.
Well, and the whole thing of dying at the end of your trip just wasn't so cool. You know what I mean? Like, I get that people were like, really had a good time on the highway and all that, but then just to die on the off ramp by your house,
I'm pretty sure your death indicates the end of the trip.
In many ways.
Yeah, wherever that is, that's the end of your trip. Yes.
You have arrived.
You have arrived at your demise.
So, I obviously this is something that is hot. I mean, very eagerly waited for. As this is deployed and as we get to see some real world experience, I think we'll have more to say about it. Otherwise, right now, that's all I got, kids.
Yeah, it's like another piece of the puzzle as they continue to work on the software. So it's another piece that is in play and more to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had joked previously about having your car drive to you. You order a new car,
right?
And
they just plug in the address and
I'm in Chicago, and the car from Palo Alto comes to me. Or whatever, but this is just another, thing of, having a car that could go from coast to coast fully on autopilot, regardless of how many on-ramps, off-ramps that requires.
Well, that would be amazing though, right? Like you could see the factory worker coming to the car at the end of the line. They reach in, they type in your address, and the car leaves the factory.
Smack it on the button, send it in its way. Well, the only missing part, I mean, aside from the software update, is that really creepy robotic charging thing.
Oh my God!
That
weird snake charger thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna suck the soul from your car. That's but with that, literally, they could do that. They could just you're out of here, kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we've said several times inductive charging.
Right.
Well,
that snake thing requires that the hatch opens up and the snake thing finds the plug, and that it can unplug itself, and that the hatch can close, which when it's cold, when it's snowing, when it's icy, or whatever. But if
they might be able to get it to open it because it's sensing, it knows the car based on the serial number, possibly. But you're right. Once you get into inclement weather, there could be some difficulties with ice and such that would require a human maybe to clear the hinge so it opens for all the way. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting. Elon has said that he's going to be still running a coast to coast run in 2018 from Redondo Beach to New York City, and it's going to go the entire distance on its own and will charge itself. So will the Snake charger be in play? I guess we'll see shortly.
Hopefully, because I just want to see that creepy.
Yeah,
thing
exactly, exactly.
No. Oh, sorry. I don't need to make that noise. That's really annoying. Our next story has to do with we're talking about car deliveries.
Exactly. Exactly. So what's happened is that Elon has mentioned in a tweet, of course, his primary way of communicating with the world, that the Tesla semis were going to be out and performing some deliveries. So here we are at the Tesla plant, and shot from the roof. This is, of course, the Gigafactory 1. And these trucks, which certainly appear that they are the exact ones that were used in the presentation with at the end of the Model 3 unveil. I'm sorry, it was the truck presentation.
Yeah.
That they look like the same rigs, and this time, of course, they were hooked up to trailers. And they made a couple of they made a run from the Gigafactory in Nevada to the factory in name escapes me.
The other place.
Fremont.
The other place. Well, Fremont.
Yeah. So from Sparks to Fremont.
Right. So these trucks were on the road, and apparently they were hauling parts. Who knows? It's not like they were opening the back and showing us what was inside or what the weight was. Right. But these trucks were on the road with trailers, apparently on delivery runs. And I guess the distance between the two factories is about 250 miles. So the trucks easily could traverse that amount of space without having to stop and recharge. But they did actually stop in Rocklin, California. And they, I guess, were collecting some information, pulling some data out of them based on that, approximately 125-mile run at that point, and collecting that data to see what the facts and figures were with probably, the battery use and other points of interest to the engineers.
Yeah, that's not. I've driven that road. That's the first part of that drive coming from Sparks over the mountains. That's a challenging road for a rig that size.
Right.
I mean, that's once you get down into Sacramento, it's all big freeway and all that. It's not that big a deal, but up in the mountains, I mean, the first 60 miles of that trip are tough.
Because you're traversing a mountain range, right?
You are exactly correct. Yeah, you are traversing a mountain range.
Yeah. So you've got the winds and the back and forths and the certainly the inclines that they would have to deal with.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the altitude change. You have the switchbacks. It's definitely an exciting trip. Let's put it that way.
So it was kind of interesting that they publicized that this was happening, and Elon posted a number of pictures that it was on its way. And of course, as we'll see in some other news stories, the paparazzi semi group was following the truck for a good amount of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many videos that you can grab online and see the trucks stopping and pulling in and accelerating onto the highway. And there's actually some good acceleration videos where it shows that the truck is pulling like no other truck. Like everyone has seen a transport get onto a highway or go from a stop onto another road. And it's all that gear shifting that takes a long time. Right. And the buildup of torque. Well, of course, with the Tesla Semi, that's not required at all. There's a single gear, and the truck, it just accelerates like a car out of the gate and onto the freeway. So certainly that if you haven't seen that 30-second video or so, look it up. It's kind of interesting to see that this truck with a trailer is just moving like a small car, just zipping onto the highway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. I would love to know if there were batteries in the trailer. I realized it, Well, I mean, or if it was just either way, you know what? It's impressive. Even if there weren't, even if the trailers were empty, they did it. And that's, and this wasn't autonomous. That wasn't the idea. The idea was, again, just to get these things on the road, these 2 early prototypes, and make the trip, which, again, not easy. This isn't, Milwaukee to Chicago on I-95, where it's all flat and it's all multi-lane,
Exactly.
Much more challenging.
Yeah, for anyone, watching the progression of the semis, especially the people who've put down money, and the companies that have already said that they want to order these, just seeing these prototypes out on the road, making these drives and doing these things is enough to take them one step closer to realization that this is going to happen.
It is the whole, like, we got us a convoy paparazzi train.
Okay, yeah, that is hilarious. Yeah.
I like, damn, for rubber duck, there's and what a surprise, that these things draw a crowd.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody who followed that thing was being silly or anything like that. This is something very different.
It's a different point in time as to what these things are and what they can do, and it's really history in the making, I would say, just looking at it from the outside. And
we've laughed before saying that Tesla doesn't do advertising, or doesn't do marketing or whatever. And yet, Mark, how did the paparazzi, Tesla selling paparazzi, how do these people know that the trucks are going to make the run?
I don't know if they're tenting out all weekend waiting for the truck to move, or if they're following it out and there's like a paparazzi network where they're communicating back and forth on their iPhones. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't seem that Tesla can make a move without somebody getting wind of it and starting to publish it. Do you guys remember when we saw the truck that was parked in a back lot somewhere with the top of the cab taken off of it? So it even looked a little bit weird. And yet someone spotted the thing, took photographs of it, publicized where it was, and then everyone's got pictures of the truck before the unveiling. So who knows? But man, these guys are on their game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Tesla wasn't one of the all-time great link bait keywords, this wouldn't happen. If it was a new whatever semi, people would probably care a lot less. And there are 4 other companies working on electric trucks, and how many videos? Well, we wouldn't see them on this show, but it's the excitement around Tesla.
Oh, and it's taking many people by storm. Like, even the trucking industry has been shook up, and they're kind of awake to what's going on. And even popular truck sites I've dropped by every once in a while just to see what's going on them. And the Tesla semis being mentioned all over the place. So people are aware that it's coming into that industry and is making waves already.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, speaking of making waves, Tesla delivered their showroom in Columbus, Ohio. They didn't deliver the showroom. They delivered to the showroom a Model 3. And this was back on, let's see, March 9th, just so you know.
Yep, the Model 3 has shown up in Columbus, Ohio. So there's a shot of it here that we got from one of our viewers or listeners. And they posted it that they were at the Columbus showroom, and sure enough, there was a shiny new Model 3 available for people to sit in and take in the view and open the doors and see what it was all about.
That's beautiful. And, and again, as production continues to increase and they fill more consumer orders, we'll get to see more of these out in the various Tesla stores so that people can see it and touch it and play with it. I look forward to when they'll actually be able to drive it.
Yeah, that's going to be there'll be a ton of people waiting to take this thing out for a spin for sure.
Yeah. Not that said, you can go drive a P100D right now if you have a Tesla store in your hood. So really, Model 3, yeah, whatever. P100D, dude.
Right. Yeah.
Go drive that bad boy. And if you get the Tesla employee to throw up, we'll send you $5. Just saying.
Just an added bonus.
Just saying. Yeah.
But we need to see it on video.
We need video. Yeah.
I'm not sending you $5 for nothing. Okay. So,
right.
In fact, truth is, I'm not going to send you $5 at all. But
We'll scan it and email it to you.
yeah, there you go. I like that idea, Tony.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Oh, it works. Well, you print it out, and you know,
Okay.
it's all good.
Yeah. Government doesn't mind that at all.
No, I'm sure they don't. No, that's you guys have a squirrely government, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Says the guy who
Doesn't have that government. That's
doesn't have
right.
that government.
Yeah. Next story is about Utah. As I like to say from a popular movie, Utah chapter. But this is the Utah, I guess, state capital. And there's been a bill that's been pushing through, and it looks like Tesla is going to win the right to sell vehicles without dealerships involved. So, as you know, there's been a number of states that have been fighting this, and Utah was one of them. And a special bill has been produced that the governor was set to sign, which would allow Tesla to open the store it had already built and now start selling cars out of it. To this point, I can't remember if this one was shut down specifically or if it was just a showroom because they couldn't sell. But one or the other, they had built the actual showroom. It was supposed to be able to sell, and then the brakes were thrown on when Utah had indicated that it couldn't be done at this point. So it was kind of mothballed for a while. Mm-hmm. But now this new bill that's going to be signed by the governor will allow them to push forward and sell cars independently of dealerships.
Wow. Right on.
Yeah, that's great. It's it's another step. It's another step towards breaking up the monopoly of the dealership lobby.
Well, I mean, and again, it's not right. Breaking the monopoly is just that they didn't even want Tesla to have a chance to sell vehicles directly, and that's the horrible part about that.
Right.
I mean, because that's just stupid.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Sorry.
Well, here you go. Speaking of stupid, I got something for you.
Do you? Oh, show me something stupid, Tony. Whoa. Oh, Tony. Oh, Tony.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's a stripper bot.
And this has nothing to do with Tesla, right?
I'm pretty sure Tesla's working on that.
Yeah. I was going to say, isn't that what they're giving credit for the production increases on the Model 3 line too? The stripper bot?
Yeah, well, and the stripper bot has a zero emission.
I thank God for that. Yeah.
So there you go. So there's a stripper bot for the night.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've been there, folks.
Yep.
You can't say that the Tesla Life won't show you just about anything. We will.
Straight out of left field.
The next story we've got talks a little bit about the semi paparazzi that we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
So as those trucks were rolling from Rockland going forward, we've got a little video here of the actual chase.
Well, let's. Oh, there we go.
So here we are zipping across, trying to get a hold of catching that truck. It's moving pretty good, as you can see, through city streets.
What I think is funny here is this guy gets stranded in the right turn only lane.
Right. Yeah. And look what pulls in front of him.
Faster than a Volt.
Volt. Nice.
Yeah. The Chevy Volt pulls in front and takes his spot for a little while.
Damn Volts.
Yeah. So it's, he chases but stays behind him for the longest time until we get actually on the interstate here.
Yeah. And then he pulls away.
Okay. So now we actually get some side shots.
Because to this point, it just looks like the back of a truck.
Right.
And then he gets out beside, and then of course the two trucks are running in tandem here.
There we go. Okay, so here we go.
So there he is catching up and
wait, who's in between them? Wow.
God,
So
that's what really annoys me about semis. They make so much noise.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to admit, this is not the thrilling part of the video. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, this is,
but isn't it amazing though that like no matter what happens, people are out recording it. Like
Mhm.
that's what I find amazing is that it doesn't matter where these things go or where they happen, somebody is out spotting and then quickly uploading to the internet, so all of us can take a look at a highway chase scene.
yeah.
I did want to mention, and I don't know that this is super relevant to anything, but the one of the nice things about that Highway 80 run is it's about 200. Well, you said like 250 miles. I think it's like 200, just short of 250 miles. That first 60 miles, well, actually probably less uphill, but then you've got this huge long downhill.
Mm.
And if there's any kind of regen on these things, which you would think there has
No,
to be,
there
right?
is.
I'm wondering how much energy they actually use getting material from Sparks to Fremont, because that's a really nice long downhill. I mean,
Yeah.
a dozen miles or more.
Right.
So,
Right. That would be based on I know my Volt can pick up a number of different different speeds of hills. Certainly the regen plays a role and will add a number of miles to my battery access. So certainly those larger trucks, you could just imagine that the mileage is probably just clicking up, adding extra miles to the battery if the regen is being activated, which I'm sure it would be, because you don't have to use brakes anymore. You're not using the physical pads to slow the truck down. Although I guess some trucks would use like the engine brake.
right.
But typically you can be in a situation where you're going downhill quite a bit. The regen is storing that extra energy, and you're not using any physical pads to slow the truck down. So it's a bonus in all the columns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd almost think they planned it.
Yeah,
Almost.
almost.
But it's brilliant way to take advantage of the natural terrain between the two. If it was all
Exactly.
flat,
Right.
they'd be paying for it the whole way. Now, I don't know if going up and going down, if that works to their advantage or not. If they get everything back or not. It might be interesting if they did.
And if I'm sure if Elon decides that going up and coming down is too much, then he'll probably just bore a hole through the mountain. Just mark it a private road, and
Exactly, and which coincidentally brings us right to our next story. Great segue.
thank you.
But what we've got is Elon, again through Twitter, has indicated, which is a bit of a reverse to what we've heard in the past, is that the new Boring Company plan is that all tunnels in Hyperloop will prioritize pedestrians and cyclists over cars. So he's indicating that he wants the system to meet the needs of mass transit. And as a matter of courtesy and fairness, if some people can't afford a car, they should be going first. So this is built about the Boring Company and the Hyperloops and the sleds that we've seen and frankly laughed about quite a bit. But this is letting you know that Elon is now starting to think of mass transit as something that should be incorporated into these systems and something that should be prioritized above transporting a car on a sled, as opposed to maybe a group of people or cyclists that are being sent to a certain location.
So if you have a let's say a pedway underground, and you automate it, right? You have transportation, and you have a pedway in the subterranean. So it's like a subterranean pedway. It's like a subway.
Man, you really work for that one.
I know. I was really wishing, but I mean, don't we have things like that?
We have subways, absolutely. Yep, and they're pedestrian friendly already.
Yeah.
Because pedestrians are the only ones that get on it. No one's driving their car onto the
Thank
subway.
God. Yeah. and yeah, and some of them even allow you to bring your bikes. And I just, this gets back to Russell. You said a very long time ago, I think, how Elon seems to just be recreating something that already exists. Now, if he's extending service, that's great. But if he's laying or boring parallel tracks or duplicating something that already has a run, okay, what's the point?
Because somebody wants to do it.
Bada bing!
So, I mean, like I was kind of critical on What Drives Us about this plan. And if you watch What Drives Us this week, I might be kind of critical again. But I'll say this. I do want to, you know what? It's not everybody who, even if they don't admit they were wrong, will re-examine evidence presented to them and change course. Elon's done that in this case. So cheers to him for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, you can't, whether or not I agreed with the original plan and whether or not even I think this is super great, at least I can acknowledge he's taking it in a better direction, I think. So cheers to him for that.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay.
That's all I got.
I think he would, what would really be cool, because we know he loves the fanciful and we know he's a sci-fi fanatic. I think if he really wanted to do the pedestrian thing, he would do the transportation tubes like on Futurama.
You don't think that may scramble people's brains as they've been flushed through the tubes at Mach 3?
See, now I think people will have to, if you don't know the tubes in Futurama, you'll have to go find them.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
All right. Let me pull it up. Hold on.
I have to admit, I have not seen the tubes on Futurama. But either way, I mean,
well, it's going to be interesting. Like we have said in the past, subways certainly are something that have been built in the past, usually at great expense to cities and regions. But it's whether or not the faster, boring company can put tunnels through more efficiently, faster, making them cheaper. Maybe it will excel beyond what we think it will. But I think that's their competitive advantage, is rethinking how these tunnels can be made, how fast they can be made in order to speed development. So it'll be interesting to see how the first projects, once they get to full scale, actually work, and are they paying back the investors that are putting money into it? Is it something that can be self-sustaining, or is it going to be more of a subway type thing where it's a cost that's reoccurring that cities and districts end up paying for a long time?
Yeah. And let's be clear. I mean, the huge advantage to this is, especially in places like Los Angeles or Washington, D.C., where they're drilling a test tunnel right now, allegedly. It's right away. I mean, even if you elevate it, you still got to put the supports for the elevated track or elevated roadway or whatever for the Hyperloop. The idea of boring underneath everything is that, nobody loses a house. There's no freeways. There's no streets bypassed. I mean, that's the strength of this idea. I've had disagreements with where he's going and what he's going to shove through the tunnels. Otherwise, the tunnels are cool.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the Futurama tubes. All right. You ready?
There we go.
All right. So this is Fry. He's the main character in Futurama. This is his first trip in the tubes.
Nice.
Yes.
And see, it's just that easy. I mean,
it's a very efficient way of moving around, as you can see.
And see, you come to the end and you just get out and everything works.
Everything. Whoa, wait a second.
Except for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
Yeah.
Just being able to glimpse the future like that is magical.
Right.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
How do you not watch Futurama? It boggles my mind.
And I watched Forged in Fire last night. New season, baby.
Right.
There
Yeah,
you go.
but I mean, between Futurama and how it's made, I don't have time for new.
Okay.
New programs, right?
I am
right.
totally with you on how it's made.
You're booked up. I understand.
Yeah, well, especially when like Discovery Channel or Sci-Fi does a how it's made marathon for half a Sunday.
Oh my gosh, that's it. The whole day's done.
Oh,
The
yeah.
best part is watching it on demand with no commercials. Sorry, Science Channel.
Well, I'm gonna bore the two of you because the next story is about some Canadians.
Oh yeah.
So what we've
Take
got
off.
here is a photograph of some technical groups that are in from Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal down in Fremont, learning about the Model 3. As we heard about 2 weeks ago, the cars are going to start to be sold in Canada mid this year, is what the reservation page says. And now we've got some evidence that some Canadians are doing some training to bring that back to the respective cities so that the service centers are well aware of what they're in for with the release of the Model 3 in Canada. So good news for Canadians that are watching this and anticipating getting a chance to order. It looks like Tesla is making, I guess, getting ready for the launch. So absolutely good to see.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, and this is definitely something that it's nice to see them getting ahead. You know, like, hey, get the service techs out there so that if there are problems right away, they can be addressed. And it's not like we got the cars. We just,
Right.
So cheers. Good for them.
And it's warming up, so we're getting into spring. So if you're getting a Model 3, you have 6 months to buy your snow tires before you'll need them.
Nice. Nice. Interestingly enough, speaking of the Model 3 and good things and bad things, Edmunds put out on the AP Wire last week their review of the Model 3 after driving it for 3,000 miles. And how do I say this? Maybe one of you more diplomatic people can, let's just say that it was mixed. It was a mixed, they had some issues. Edmunds was concerned about the quality of the assembly, that there were some things like the center touchscreen required some rebooting, which they didn't think was very cool. There was a cracked vanity mirror, which is really small, a broken driver's seat shell, which is really big. It was, I think when I read it, I thought it was a very fair appraisal of their experience with this vehicle.
I was glad to see it, to see something that was even-handed, because we knew there was going to be some issues and problems. That's just the way it's going to be. But I was glad to see that after 3,000 miles, they indicated the good and the bad as to what they saw, and certainly. I expected there to be some issues, and I would think that anyone that's purchasing the car in the early days is going to experience some of this. It's something that is not going to be avoided until everything is correct, which is going to take a long time. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to be a number of different cycles that go through as they try to dial this car in to be as dependable and as I guess perfect as it can be off a line.
Right. Can I bring up something that's almost irrelevant to the whole thing, but I never thought about before, so I feel stupid?
We saw Stripper Bot.
I was going to say, you went irrelevant. I can bring Stripper Bot back.
So
and Russell, do you want to flip the so we can see you?
Oh, no. I'd really much rather see you talk. Can you just move your mouth while I talk? Thank you. There we go. Because you're much better looking than I am, Mark. Please. One of the interesting things about this article was there's a whole paragraph in there about, that they bought the more expensive version because they wanted to get it earlier, and that it was the extended range, a 310-mile range battery, and all of that. And it was like, okay, great. And then you're thinking, well, maybe 300 miles isn't, but they make a really good point here, which is you go to the supercharger with a 300-mile battery, you get 200 miles of range really quick. If you have a 200-mile range vehicle and you go to the supercharger, obviously that it's required to fill the whole thing up at that point. So it takes more time. And they point out that with that extra battery capacity, they got a lot of range, enough range to get into the next charger station or wherever they wanted to go, to drive for 3 hours or so, and then stop again to charge, which I never thought of. Is that me admitting I'm stupid? Because
no, see, it's you admitting you don't have one yet. So that's all that is. It is experience that they're writing about.
Exactly. And that's what I liked about it. It wasn't just a matter of we didn't like this, we didn't like that. It was like, hey, we experienced this and we had this idea, and maybe you'll be, I thought it was a nice observation for the review.
Yeah, and absolutely. As people do know that those batteries, of course, once they get to an 80% charge point, they start taking longer to charge.
Right.
And if you have a larger battery, you get that extra mileage in it faster. And like you had mentioned, you can get on to your next stop in a quicker fashion.
Yeah. I think Edmund said that they figured the difference in the range could amount to 15 minutes or more per charging stop. So, yeah, I mean, if you were trying to get someplace far away, that could take an hour off your trip.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can make a big difference in where you're going and the time you arrive, for sure.
Not that I don't love hanging out at supercharger stations.
Right. It does. It reduces the amount of time you get to spend at the Tesla Roller Cafe.
Tony, is that the next story? No.
Nope. He triggered that without even knowing. He's that good.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I got nothing. So I guess I'll talk about Electrek announced that there are some updates coming, adding some convenience features for Model 3 software. It looks like, let's see, new feature, new version 3.3, 3.3.0. It gives you the simplified windshield wiper controls. Owners now have access to the owner's manual and latest release notes on the touchscreen in the vehicle. There is also still waiting for the highly anticipated revamped maps and navigation engine. So, but again, OTA updates are one of the magical things about Tesla cars. And I say magical, not ironically, I say magical because who else is updating their car's software over the air for free? Who? Name them.
That would be nobody.
Nobody. Yeah.
So
and frequently, and with direct feedback, people tweeting at Elon, "Hey, this should be fixed," and in a couple of months, the fix comes out.
Yeah, like the one about the steering wheel. You know what? When you put the car in park, maybe the steering wheel should go up so you can get out of the car easily. Like, who would have ever thought that he would take that over a tweet and then implement it? Like, that's incredible.
Right. And then, unfortunately, I crashed my Model 3, but I couldn't open the glove box, Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fix that in about a week.
Yeah. Or how can I access the data once the car's been crashed? And another over-the-air update allows the ability to pull that information out of the black box. So these could be also thought as oversights. But the great thing is that even if they were oversights, they can be fixed. Whereas in other car companies, that doesn't happen.
You have an entire generation, or you have to wait until a refresh, or right. It could be 6 years. It could be 4 to 6 years before you see an update.
And another thing to add to Russell's story is that the app was updated recently as well for SX and 3s. And it's added some controls to it to allow you to access the frunk and the trunk through the app. So some other bonuses have now appeared in an over-the-air update to the application itself. So check those out if you haven't done it already.
I noticed my app had updated. I didn't know what it did since I don't own a Tesla.
Okay. All right. Well, the next story we've got is from South by Southwest.
Oh, who doesn't South by Southwest?
Which is in Austin, Texas, if you don't know. Happens every year at this time. and is a huge conference about future thinking, about products, about different forms of transportation and commuting, computing, as well as many other things. And who shows up but Elon? Because of course he's got nothing else to do.
Right.
Yeah. Elon in a bomber jacket, number one. Okay.
So he showed up I believe the night before first, and was on a panel for the show Westworld, and showed up and did a few comments on that panel. And then I guess that evening or the next day, I'm not sure which, he went into an hour-long discussion being moderated at the show, and took questions via the audience that were set up to the presenter, and touched on many different topics, including SpaceX, the Boring Company, Tesla, of course, and some thoughts about where things are going, and what he sees as issues. AI was brought up. So obviously we don't have time to go through it, but if you have an hour and would like to get into what's going on in Elon's head, this is an excellent watch to understand where he's coming from, and maybe some different views on the details of why some decisions have happened and what he's made certain decisions happen. Some of the answers are in this video. So it's a great watch if you've got the time.
Yeah, it is really good. I haven't gotten all the way through it yet. I need to get back to it. How It's Made came on, so I had to stop it. But I mean, you're absolutely right. It's honest, and it's, they ask him a question, and he's like thinking about it, and he's like, okay, well here, and he goes into details into a lot of stuff.
That's the really cool thing about Elon as an owner of a company or a CEO, is that he seems pretty genuine. Like anytime that he's answering a question or going through an explanation, he really seems to be giving you what's on his mind. I really don't think that he's deviating much or has much of a filter on him as other people seem to that are in those type of positions.
He speaks his mind and communicates mostly through Twitter. I mean, he could be president.
Yeah. Let's. Oh, ouch. Oh, ouch. Ouch. For the record, I did not say that.
Oh, yeah. Right, you're right. And for the record, he'd be better.
Yeah. But I haven't had a chance to watch it all, but I'm going to, because an hour with Elon talking about everything is certainly an interesting prospect. So,
and you get to learn how we're going to live on Mars, which is really cool to know that in advance.
And unfortunately, the first people might not live on Mars.
Yeah, Mars
did get to that part. Should I spoil it for him, Mark, or just let him?
Let him do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That'll get people to watch it.
Right.
So the next story, another announcement from our favorite folks in Fremont, that supercharger rates are going up.
Oh.
Yeah.
And just for those of you who want to see something, there we go. Oh yeah, that's teeny weeny tiny. There we go. That's better, right?
Yep.
So those are the new rates for the superchargers. Apparently Arkansas doesn't get superchargers. They don't have any, do they?
I think they seceded.
Wow. And North Dakota.
North Dakota is part of Canada now.
North Dakota, clearly part of the North.
Say, what is that? Is that Saskatchewan?
That's right.
It's Saskatchewan South.
They both provinces took it over last night. No one noticed.
No one cared. No one cared. They were like, whatever.
And there goes that state from the listenership.
They say, well, the only thing good in North Dakota University hockey team. So clearly you belong in Canada.
Clearly you belong in part of Winnipeg. Yes, indeed.
So there's your new supercharger rates. And again, for those of us that don't have an electric or don't have a Tesla, this doesn't really impact us. But for those of us that don't have a Tesla but care about Tesla, the company, I'm all for this. I'm all for Tesla making some money so that they can be more profitable. And my apologies to all of you that are paying for the supercharger network.
which is everyone with a Model 3 to this point.
Yeah, and I guess
and probably a couple or a few that have S's or X's that didn't get a referral code.
Right.
But everyone else is getting it for free.
For free. And again, install that charger at home, be judicious about it. And when you go on the road, look at the idea that, it's still 20 cents a kilowatt hour in California. That's like a tier 1 base rate. That's like a very cheap rate in California. Okay. Most people paid at least double that.
And I'm not sure, Russell, but I think the rates might have been the original rates, because I thought I heard that California went up to 26 cents. But I could be in error.
Old rates. No. It says that right here. New rates, state by state. Oh,
okay.
Bastards.
So there is some.
Why would they make a graphic?
And some, of course, have raised them even over double what they were. But again, this is kind of a blessing in disguise. Is that these, as the flood of Model 3s and new cars come onto the grid, and they are using these superchargers, of course, they're going to plug up in populated areas. So if people are thinking twice about, do I go to the supercharger or do I charge at home overnight, that can, of course, reduce some of the stress on the system. And as tens of thousands of Model 3s start to arrive on the scene, that's going to become important, because really you want the supercharger network there to facilitate people driving, going different distances to either on vacation or for work. You want those abilities that they can travel up and down the California coast to go to a business meeting or to go on vacation. You don't necessarily want someone charging their S or X because they want to get a quick charge. They could really do it overnight, but they decide, since it's free, I'm just going to charge at the supercharger. So those type of things come into play, and as more and more cars come on to the supercharger network, it's going to become more of an issue.
Right. And even though Tesla says, quote, Tesla's committed to ensuring that the supercharger network will never be a profit center, I don't want them to lose their butt on it either.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes. And the Mark, I was just thinking that if, you were saying we don't want people stopping through the superchargers. Just and to clarify, what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking like the Starbucks type comparison. I could make coffee at home, or I could get coffee out. And in this case, if it's charging per kilowatt hour, if the cost of going to a supercharger is the same or less than the cost of charging at home, then clearly people would be heading to the superchargers to charge up instead of charging at home. Right. And even if it was the exact same cost, people would be saying, I could charge the supercharger in 2 hours, or it could take me considerably longer to charge at home.
Yeah, like an hour at the supercharger, but at home it would take you 4 hours.
Yeah, stuff like that. And yeah, I do think that there should be a bit of a souring of the milk, if you will, to discourage people from abusing the supercharger network.
Well, as some of you know, I've had an EV now since 2014, and the middle of 2014, and I find that that overnight charge period where I'm sleeping anyways, the car's charging. So it doesn't matter. I'm sleeping. It doesn't really matter if the car takes 4 or 8 hours to charge, because in the morning when I want the car, I'm full. And all through the night it charged at a slower rate than a supercharger, obviously. But it really didn't matter because I'm not using it and I'm sleeping.
Right. It's so funny when you talk to people about charging your cars and you say, oh, it takes 8 hours or it takes 12 hours. People are like, oh my God, it takes. But now I can just say, I plug it in, I charge it overnight.
Yeah.
And people are just like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, what why were you freaking out when I told you it was, so many hours before? Yeah.
Just like taking your iPhone and plugging it in the nightstand before you go to sleep. It just charges up overnight, and in the morning it's ready to go, just like the car.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
What I do, I plug my car into my neighbor's outlet when they're sleeping.
Were you supposed to say that on air?
I don't think they listen to the show.
Well, our next story, so we don't get sued. Moving on.
Let's definitely not get sued tonight.
Wait, John, you do listen to the show.
Oh.
Bonus.
Hey, Tony, it's been great having you on. Thanks.
Yeah, hang up on that guy.
Yeah.
Wrong number, right, Tony? Yeah.
right. No Pablo Inglés.
Well, Russell's got our next story queued up, and we kind of mentioned this earlier about the Tesla Semi pulling away quite quickly. It's a quick video. We're going to show this.
Dun, dun, dun.
The Tesla's on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And look at this thing go.
Look at that diesel smoke. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like a car.
I mean, yeah, just right into flow.
Exactly. Actually, a little close, I would say. But
I would too.
that guy in the pickup truck may be late on the horn. But there was no real waiting there. The truck is pulling, and it's pulling hard. Very interesting to see.
Yeah, I was actually really close to that truck behind him.
Yeah.
But again, it's not 1 gear, 2 gear, 3 gear, 4 gear, 5 gear before you get to the middle lane.
Right.
You know, he's just going. And I say he because I think both drivers were male. For the record.
Could be. You never know.
Could be. So there you have it. Acceleration of the Tesla Semi.
Exactly. And again, since this is pretty well a Tesla Semi show, which it was unintentional, but it seems that way at this point, we came across someone that posted on Twitter that they saw a Semi charging at a local supercharger.
Huh. So
there we have the truck again from California, plugged in somehow to the supercharger network, picking up a charge. But what's not really unusual here is not that the truck is here at a supercharger, it's where the supercharger is. It turns out that this supercharger is in St. Charles, Missouri.
Huh?
And this truck is sitting close to St. Louis currently.
What?
Yeah.
How'd it get to St. Louis?
Well, that's the question.
I think it was pulled by the Think City
by the red car
it.
beside it. Yeah, the Think City car. No, that's the new Tesla Model Y.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
For why the hell did they do this?
For why would you do something like that?
Yeah.
But that's a Think City car actually.
Yeah. Shout out to David for calling that out in the chat room. He said he owns one and it's red as well, so he knew exactly what it was when he saw it.
So that car is the owner of the car is the one that took the photograph, and I believe the driver is beside the Tesla Semi looking down.
Did not even notice that. I hope he's not taking.
Maybe he didn't want to be in the picture. I'm not sure. And there is a driver inside the vehicle as well. You can see through the windshield.
Oh yeah.
So interesting that this. But as it turns out, and I'll bring up another photo here that was shown on our Twitter feed recently. This shot here is the truck moved, I guess, a little bit later in the day, and it's at a factory of sorts that people would recognize, an all large brick building in St. Louis. It happens to be Anheuser-Busch, where the truck ended up being on display. And coincidentally, or not, Anheuser, of course, has ordered 40 of the Tesla.
I was going to say they're making a reservation holders tour.
Exactly. So this truck is at Anheuser, showing off what the company has put their money down on, maybe showing it to some engineers or some company execs. But that is why the truck was in St. Louis. The real question is, did that truck drive there, or did it get transported somehow? So that is the question that we don't have any pictures in between California and St. Charles. So we're not sure. We're not sure how it arrived. We're hoping that others will come up with some photos here and there. But it was interesting that the person that took the picture in the red city car had said, He said, "Holy cow! I nearly peed myself when I saw this." So he knew exactly what it was when he went by the supercharger and stopped immediately to snap a few pictures.
Huh. I mean, obviously they could charge it a supercharger, but the question is how long it would take.
How long it would take, and we know that the top of the line model, which of course this is really a demonstration model. Who knows what it's got it in for batteries in this vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
But the top of the line model has 500 miles of range fully loaded. This vehicle is traveling bobtailed, which means no trailer, and therefore the mileage could be greater. I don't know how much greater, but without a load of 80,000 pounds, maybe the vehicle gets a lot more than 500 miles.
Yeah. Well,
but it still would definitely, what is St. Louis, 1,900 miles from California or something crazy like that?
Yeah,
that's I'm just making stuff up because I'm Canadian. But the amount of time, it would certainly have to stop somewhere to charge. And it did have time to do that, especially if there were two drivers. It certainly would have time to drive that distance, even supercharging along the way.
Yeah, you kind of have two routes here. One through Arizona, and Texas, Oklahoma. The other one going up through northern Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, and coming down. And each of them about 2,100 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't too far off at 1,900. Not bad.
No.
Yeah.
31 hours, 2,070 miles on I-80. Oddly enough, the road they traveled to Fremont, from Sparks to Fremont on.
Yeah,
exactly.
So there you go. Hey, we know how to use Google. Darn it. Well, I think what may or may not be our final story this evening is going to start with a picture. I'm going to.
I can throw that up for you right now.
Can you?
I can.
You know what picture I'm going to throw up?
I know exactly what picture you're going to throw up.
And by throw up,
I mean,
I suspect. Is it this picture?
There you go.
No,
it's different.
No, it's this picture.
All right.
So, if you look at Mark's screen, we'll put that up. You remember this? We talked about this a while ago. This was whole Elon's like, hey, we're going to put some kind of cool car hop thing, some little diner in one of our new superchargers near LA. Well, turns out we'll stop presenting. Turns out they filed for permits to do just exactly that. And why? Well, because he's got a location in Santa Monica. And this is the location. And that is exactly what it's going to look like when it's done. All those junk cars there. You just have to kind of push your way in.
Man, that's going to be tough getting any service there.
Yeah.
Can you zoom that a smidge?
Like so?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
There we go. So that's Santa Monica Boulevard. And I'm not sure. I want to say... I don't know, 14th Street. But nonetheless, in Santa Monica, that will be the first Tesla car hop.
And it's right across from the Chestnut Club. I go there all the time.
I know, right? Right? Apparently there's a mini dealership going in across the street. I don't know. But either way, it was, I think it's cool to, get a little peek at where that's going to be.
Right on Santa Monica Boulevard. Like you couldn't be any more, right in front of everyone's face than Santa Monica Boulevard.
Right. Well, it makes perfect sense because I'm sure corner real estate on Santa Monica Boulevard is just dirt cheap.
Dirt cheap, I'm sure.
Yeah. Hardly cost a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think in fact you probably got it for free.
Wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Who wants to hang out in Santa Monica by the ocean? Ugh. Damp and stuff. I mean, yeah.
If you're into that kind of thing.
So I'm trying to figure out. It mentions that the latest supercharger in this article, and this is in Eder, Los Angeles. I don't know how they are, but the second largest supercharger station in Baker, right? This is the halfway point between LA and Vegas. It says the charging stop only has a Dairy Queen and a Tapioca Express. I've been at Baker a whole bunch of times, and it used to have a lot more than that. So I don't know. Maybe Bun Boy is gone. Maybe the Burger King is gone. Maybe the Arby's is closed down. Maybe it is just Dairy Queen and Tapioca.
Maybe this is Elon's just running a play on fast food restaurants. He's realized that this is an area that's underserved for fast food restaurants.
Yeah, I mean,
come get your Tesla burger.
There you go. Well, and Baker would be fantastic. Like I said, that would be a great place for that. Santa Monica, obviously, it's whatever. It's cool. I'm going to be very interested to see how they build this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, this thing must be costing a fortune just for the land. Like it must be insane. But this is a showpiece, and that's exactly what this is why Tesla doesn't spend money on advertising. These are things that they do to be out in front of the public, and it's another stunt of a sort to say, look at us. Here is this. Come and see it for yourself. So it'll be interesting.
And then it's also the McDonald's mentality, right? You're not in the fast food business; you're in the real estate business. So worst comes to worst, you own a corner lot, on Santa Monica Boulevard.
There. Well, and here's the other interesting thing. I mean, so can anybody go there? And what if there's like a whole bunch of gas cars in there eating Tesla burgers and you can't pull in to get a charge?
Well, that would be a debacle that I'm sure they're going to figure out a way not to have happen.
Which is
maybe those pictures of all those cars crushed together, those are the gasoline cars.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to you if you pull in a gas car?
You pull in, they pick it up, they crush it, and there's your little cube. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Hey, and you get a free burger.
Free burger.
Here's your car in a bag.
Thank you.
Sorry about your car. Here's a burger.
Yeah, sorry about the car. Here's a burger.
I like that. Well, Mark, I turn to you as I always do at this point in the show and go,
is there one last thing possibly? And there is for tonight's show, of course.
Okay.
Here we are in Indianapolis at a local supercharger in Indiana. And guess what we came across but a new high score.
Oh,
9808 is the new recorded high score. We're getting really close to 10,000 now. This Model 3 was captured at this supercharger in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, of all places.
Yep. Indianapolis.
No one lives in Indiana.
Apparently some people do, or passing through, one or the other.
Right.
As quickly as possible.
But does Indianapolis require front plates?
Boy, I don't remember if Indiana requires front plates or not. I don't remember. Okay. It's been a very long time. I don't think so. I want to say I don't think Indiana requires.
Because I was going to say that maybe this is a delivery car if it doesn't have a front plate, possibly. But I don't know anything about Indiana front plates. So
what is interesting is it does look like, if you look to the left, is that an S? And if you look over and behind it, is that an X? Is that the spoiler for an X?
No, maybe. That's tough to know.
Tony.
Tough to know.
Yeah,
but we can't see any plates though.
Right, yeah. And I haven't registered a car in Indiana for 25 years, so I don't remember the plate requirements. I'm sure it's changed.
Alrighty.
Very cool.
Yeah, so very cool. A new high score. For those of you who are interested, please follow us on Twitter at The Tesla Life, and you can see new high scores as we find them. If you have anything, please feel free to send it to us on our Twitter feed or our Facebook feed, which is The Tesla Life #1. And also, please, if you haven't already, press the little subscribe button in the YouTube channel. Help us out, add to our numbers. Spread the word that the Tesla Life is on weekly and has some great news and some great commentary on what's going on at any given week. So thank you very much for showing up today, and we hope to see you all soon.
There you go. Tony, any shout-outs this week?
Hey, shout-outs to everybody in the chat right now. Bruno, David, Lee. Especially a shout-out to Lee for the music. Thank you very much. JT is in the chat as well. Hey. And I want to make sure Mark mentioned that we do this every week. I want to make sure and everyone knows we do this every week at 6 o'clock Central. So that is very important, because if people are listening to the podcast and they say, hey, how can I get in the chat? How can I watch this live? 6 o'clock Central daylight time now or Central Standard Time?
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's
CDT, baby.
I
Central
don't know.
Daylight
It's Central Time. It's just CT to me.
4
No
o'clock
other,
Pacific.
no other time references matter.
Nope. 4 o'clock Pacific. Do watch the show live. Be in the chat room because the chat room's fun. And thanks to everybody there who is in the chat room and joins us. And thanks to all of you, of course, for watching and or downloading the show either live or later on, whatever. It's all good. Thank you. Thanks to Tony. Thanks to Mark.
Thank you, Russell.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Mark
everyone.
gets all of our news, by the way. I've like pretty much shuffled out of the news thing. So if you like the news that's presented, you can thank Mark Coughlin for that.
And if you don't like it, you can thank Russell.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, send your hate mail to me because I'm used to it. So thanks again, as Tony so nicely said. Thanks to Lee Moon for our theme music. He wrote, performed, composed it, and lets us use it for free. So thanks. Cheers to all of you out there. Cheers. Extra cheers to those of you in the chat room. Tune in next week and find out what is going on in the Tesla life.